Hey guys, it's Andrew. You know what I want to talk about today, right? I'm on the west coast of the island again, and I'm on the Great Northern Peninsula. At least I'm at the foot of the Great Northern Peninsula. And under normal circumstances, we would now be doing guide training, and we'd be making our way down the Great Northern Peninsula on our way to the ferry crossing, making our way across to Labrador. Of all the things that we will miss in Newfoundland, last season was a wash. It was a pandemic year, and I'm not certain exactly how things are going to play out this year, but God, please, I hope we're going to see some tourists before this is all said and done, and that we'll have an opportunity to get to Labrador, because Labrador is the one thing about Newfoundland that we can't recreate on this island. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of, look, Labrador is Newfoundland in so many ways. The people, the culture, there's so much crossover, right? Historically, guests often ask, how is Labrador a part of Newfoundland? Well, from a political position, right? Labrador was assigned to the colony of Newfoundland. The coastal community of Labrador, most particularly, was assigned to Newfoundland after the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713. You heard me talking a little while ago about Captain Cook, about the 7 Years' War, right? From 1696 until 1762. The French and the English, and let's not kid ourselves, the whole European community is battling really not so much over Newfoundland, right? But over North America. And with an extreme focus on Newfoundland because of the significant resource potential that was here, most particularly as it pertained to our cod fishery and to our seal fishery and the development of our oils. So Labrador was ceded to the control as a part of the British colony. The control of Labrador's coast was ceded to Newfoundland in the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713. Right? Now, let's not kid ourselves, right? It's all about sovereignty. And we have had Newfoundlanders on the coast of Labrador. And when I say that, I include the Aboriginal people, right? And they're a Newfoundland people. And they have been there for generations and generations and generations. Many of the same family names that you'll find in Conception Bay and Trinity Bay, Bonavista Bay, Notre Dame Bay, right? Family names that went down on the Labrador. And yes, we do go down to Labrador, despite the fact that it's north. Again, you talk about the cultural tradition and the mosaic. In Labrador, they refer to it as down as well, right? Down on the Labrador, me boys down on the Labrador. Down on the Labrador, me boys down on the Labrador. There's 100 verses of this song, so we'll cut it short right there. Labrador has had a political affiliation with Newfoundland officially since 1713. We have had fishing families and fishing people from Newfoundland, from England and Ireland, let's not kid ourselves, an extension of England and Ireland, well, officially since 1713. In 1762, with the end of the 7 Years' War, again, Labrador, from a political perspective, was ceded to the island of Newfoundland. Now, in the time that passed since then, there was there was some debate, right? And let's not kid ourselves. There was at one point Newfoundland, because of some economic uncertainty, where we actually tried to sell Labrador to Canada. And by the way, Canada didn't see any value in it, and they didn't take us up on the offer. The conclusion, or the last real official affiliation between Newfoundland and Labrador, was established in 1927. Right, with the turn of that century, there was a renewed interest in Labrador. Right, like I said, we tried to sell it to Quebec, we tried to sell it to Canada earlier. There wasn't a whole lot of interest, but with the turn of the century, there was this renewed interest now in resource development as it pertained to minerals, as it pertained to timber, and let's not kid ourselves, water resources and the development of hydro-generated electricity. In 1927, the circumstance or the decision, the idea of who owned Labrador was actually put before the British Privy Council. And in 1927, it was decided that Labrador would indeed be a possession of Newfoundland. And it was also established, when you look at Labrador, right, the very unusual mapping conditions that we have, right? What an unusual boundary line that we share here. Right, and the reason for this boundary line, if you look at a map of Labrador, if you look at this is the Quebec side, this is the Labrador side. This boundary weaves in and out along the watershed. Right, in 1927, when it was put before the British Privy Council, the wording of the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, and again the new treaties in 1762, was that Newfoundland would control the coastal community of Labrador. Now, how do you define a coastal community? Is it a high tide mark? Is it a low tide mark? Or is it, as the British Privy Council decided in 1927, the watershed area? So if you look at your map, you'll see that all the rivers to the east of this border, they run to the Labrador Sea. All those rivers to the west run to Ungava Bay. It's the watershed that defines the boundary for Labrador. It was the treaties that established, the political affiliation. And thank God now for the relationship that we have in Canada, right? The foundation and the sound principles that make Newfoundland and Labrador the 10th province of Canada, and a place that we treasure and hope to be able to visit in the not too distant future. Thanks for listening to this, guys. I'm Andrew McCarthy. I'm the Urban Bayman. And, oops, now we have some police coming. Look at that. Wow. They're not coming for me, thankfully. Social Dilemma. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Thanks to everybody.